but it has helped me to define the sheep a little more clearly. The next stage is to add some thicker layers of paint. So I've gone back to my smaller brush and pure titanium white, and I'm going to apply that selectively around the painting. So I'm picking out the areas that are very, very bright. Now, I generally avoid using too much pure titanium white in a painting, because in order to make that white really stand out, you need less of it around it, so there's a decent contrast. So when I've finished with this particular brush load of pure white, that will probably be, I can't say for sure, but that will probably be all the pure titanium white that I'll use. And that's not to say I won't be using some very light colours in just a moment, but I will add a little something else to the mix. So they may not show up that well on camera, but they will actually be off-whites. Just a couple more touches. And now what I'm going to do is add just a touch of the light blue to that mix. And as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm gradually obliterating the marker acrylic outline that I put down earlier. I don't mind if some of that shows through, but I don't want too much to be apparent. And now I need to change the colour again. I want to have more of a yellow ochre, a warm orangey feeling to the white. So I'm going to mix in a little bit of the fluorescent red and a little bit of cadmium yellow. And having done this, it's not really a white anymore, but it is a colour appropriate to the sheep that I'm painting. One of the things to look for when you're painting sheep is the wide variety of colours that are actually in their wool. There are browns and purples and yellows and oranges and pinks, and all of these colours are quite subtle, but that's one of the advantages of doing the colour beginning that we've done. Some of that work has already been done for us. Next up, I've gone back to pure ultramarine blue, and I'm going to use this to just include some outlines in specific areas where I really want to enhance the line a little bit. So at this stage now, I'm looking less and less at my reference photo and more considering what will work for this particular image. So the further into a painting I get, the more the picture becomes a life. It has a life of its own. I want to create some. I'm not ever really trying to replicate the photograph. I'm simply using it as a reference. Now I just put in some blue shadow there because by chance I'd picked up a little bit of the white on my brush, and that had mixed with the ultramarine blue in a way that I really liked. So I've just continued to use that for the shadow of the belly. And in keeping with that same region of the spectrum, I've now mixed up a light purple, which I'm just going to apply to a few places here and there. Now, since I put down the last few brush strokes, I actually walked away from this painting for a couple of days just to have a think about the direction I wanted to take the image. And what I've decided to do is I want to really enhance the contrast between the light areas on the sheet and the background, because as much as I like this blue, I think it will work even better if I have a purple here in the background. Now, I'm not going to completely obliterate the blue. I'm going to have some of that showing through, but I'm now switching to my Atelier interactive acrylics, and I've mixed up a purple with some cadmium red, some ultramarine blue, and some magenta. And as you can see, that's producing this deliciously dark purple, and I'm just applying that to the background fairly steadily and gently at the moment. What I want to do is bring this background in closer to the sheep. But if some of the background blue shows through the purple, that's great, that's okay. And I think what I'll do now is I'm going to spray the interactive acrylic with some water, and that's going to allow me to extend the paint in a gradually thinning layer over to the left. And I'm going to continue the darker background around the head of the sheep and increase the contrast there as well, to really kind of pick out the light that is catching on top of the sheep's head and ears. Now, I haven't finished the head yet. I need to include some extra detail there, and we'll do that in just a moment. But for now, we just need to take this darker colour around to the left side as well. So that's working quite well. What I want to do now is just soften some of the edges of the background purple and tease them into the blue so we get a nice smooth transition. And the paint's still wet here, so I can kind of lift some of that off a little bit and still move it around. But I quite like the textured look that I've got with the background there.